The United States sent destroyers and thousands of sailors into the southern Caribbean to confront cartels it now labels as global terrorists. Venezuela answered not with words, but with a wall of supersonic firepower, tearing the quiet sea lanes into chaos. Insurance markets spiked, shipping lines diverted, and U.S. warships took damage in less than 15 minutes. But the real shock wasn't the missiles, it was the weapon Venezuela didn't want anyone to see. So what exactly did they unleash, and why did it rattle Washington? Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. 6 large transporters crawled out of Venezuelan bases, steel armor coated in dust and camouflage tarps, almost dragging across the wheels. Soldiers stood back as the covers peeled away to show the launch rails of the Bastion P system. Each unit carried the Onyx missile, a weapon built from the start to smash into a ship traveling at full speed. They positioned themselves on a sloping stretch of coastal highway, facing the open Caribbean. From that vantage point, international waters stretched just beyond the horizon, where the U.S. destroyer, USS Arleigh Burke, and its escorts patrolled. Everyone on both sides understood what was about to unfold. The Onyx missile was engineered with one purpose: close distance quickly, tear through steel plating, and make defense systems fail by sheer speed. Once fired, it leaped into the air and then dove down to skim only a few meters above the sea surface. Traveling at nearly Mach 2.6, it could cross dozens of miles faster than American crews could cycle through their interceptors. Each warhead weighed hundreds of pounds, designed to penetrate deep into a ship before detonating. That meant even one hit could cripple a vessel, shutting down propulsion or blasting radar arrays into useless wreckage. In the operations center aboard the Arleigh Burke, alarms screamed almost the instant the missiles left their tubes. Sailors stared at the green glow of radar screens as the tracking scope filled with 14 separate streaks sweeping toward them. The Aegis system kicked into full reaction mode. Commands barked across headsets: engage, intercept, fire control online. The crew had rehearsed this moment for years, but training never carried the vibration and fear of seeing that many destroyer killers coming straight across the water. The missile trajectories dropped low, hugging the curvature of the ocean. An intercept window that normally gave defenders minutes had shrunk to seconds. The destroyer rocked slightly as its vertical launch cells coughed up 8 SM-6 interceptors. Smoke poured down the deck, then fireballs darted skyward, slamming forward to try to kill the Onyxes before they breached the defensive zone. The escorts mirrored the launch, filling the air with contrails, while the automatic phalanx guns spun up to their shrill scream. Each gun spat out up to 4,500 armor-piercing rounds per minute, spraying the sea surface with a line of fire reaching into the oncoming barrage. Through the radar screens, tiny blips began vanishing one by one. 10 confirmed kills registered, the scattered tracks swallowed by interceptors or chewed down by close-in fire. Yet the equation remained brutal. The surviving 4 missiles pushed through, streaking like orange knives across the surface of the ocean. One darted close to the destroyer before detonating in a burst that shook the deck shields and blew spray across the crew's boots. Another exploded near an escorting vessel, leaving it listing slightly from the pressure wave. Civilian cargo traffic nearby felt the thunder as windows on smaller ships rattled and hulls shivered in the shock. Navy's worldwide fear weapons in this class precisely because of what just played out. Russia, China, and even smaller regional powers have invested in similar supersonic ship killers. The United States built its defenses, knowing these would come someday, but physics itself remains the enemy. You cannot stretch reaction time once a missile is flying at twice the speed of sound. The Arleigh Burke demonstrated why a modern defense system can stop most, but not all, threats. A full saturation strike overwhelms the human factor and the computer calculations alike. And although sailors on the destroyer had just survived one of the most intense barrages imaginable, the reality quickly set in. Those missiles had not been the centerpiece of Venezuela's plan. They were only the curtain rising on something far more unsettling. In less than an hour after the missiles struck the Arleigh Burke's escort, Washington issued an order that carried a price tag of more than $80 million. The message was simple: demonstrate control of the sea while punishing Venezuela at the source. This move was not designed as an invasion or a prolonged conflict, but as a precision counterstrike. Commanders chose targets that carried military value, avoided residential sectors, and sent a warning that U.S. forces could respond at any time and from any direction. The operation would unfold across hundreds of miles of air and sea, with timing calculated down to the second. The first wave came from the destroyer itself. 15 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles spat from the vertical launch cells, one after another. Each weapon carried a 1,000-pound warhead and flew close to the surface at roughly 550 miles per hour. Their course bent north, then west, arcing past open waters to approach the Venezuelan coast near La Guaira. Every warhead was mapped to strike radar stations, known storage facilities for anti-ship missiles, and electronic tracking posts. Alongside them, a carrier strike group to the south of Aruba launched 6 FA-18E Super Hornets. Each aircraft carried Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missiles, or JASSM, programmed with coordinates for Puerto Cabello and the air defense network guarding it. This airborne element gave an added layer of insurance if the Tomahawks failed against hardened bunkers. The JASSMs could finish the job. At first, Venezuela's radar network tried to detect and track, but within minutes, its system began collapsing. Several coastal radars went offline in rapid succession as Tomahawks slammed into steel towers and power stations. Operators trying to coordinate a response suddenly found their screens blank. One strike uncovered a hidden Bastion launcher whose camouflage tarp burned away, leaving mangled tubes exposed. Meanwhile, Puerto Cabello absorbed blow after blow. 3 giant production halls essential for ship repairs disintegrated from direct hits. 7 cranes collapsed into twisted heaps of metal, each valued at $5 million. Fires raged across the facility, sending black smoke over the harbor while workers fled toward the highway. Satellite images released later showed that more than 70% of the shipyard was wrecked, causing between $350 to $100 million in losses. The human cost was limited by U.S. planners, but the economic fallout was immediate. Cargo vessels already en route to Venezuela diverted to Curaçao and other safer ports. Insurance companies tripled premiums overnight for any ship willing to sail near Caracas or Puerto Cabello. Shipping lines that supplied fuel, food, and manufactured goods rerouted, adding weeks to delivery times. Regional analysts estimated indirect losses exceeding $150 million within a single day as importers scrambled to locate new supply chains. What had started as a missile exchange now threatened to choke trade routes through the Caribbean, one of the busiest commercial zones in the hemisphere. Legal experts also weighed in, warning that the strikes carried risks under maritime and international law. Some argued the attacks were unlawful because U.S. warships were operating in international waters and the Venezuelan systems never crossed into American territory. Others pointed out that designating criminal groups as terrorist entities blurred the line between policing and warfare. Washington countered by stating that safeguarding sea lanes justified the strikes. Yet this justification rang hollow for regional markets that braced for more violence. A single missile streaking toward the Arleigh Burke turned into a chain reaction that shattered order across the Caribbean. Within hours, millions of dollars in infrastructure were destroyed, and trade routes were disrupted as shipping companies rerouted entirely. What began as a naval skirmish spread outward into markets, insurance sectors, and international courts. The decision to label cartels as terrorist groups drew navies into roles once reserved for police forces, blurring boundaries never meant to overlap. Was this decisive action a necessary shield for global commerce, or does it mark the moment ordinary sea lanes become battlegrounds overnight?